My partner's entitled mother claims that she got me my job and that she should be praised and thanked for getting me a job. But aside from only telling me about the job itself, my partner's mom is absolutely delusional, and I'm honestly at my wit's end dealing with her weird attitude. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I took a huge step last year and I moved in with my long distance partner. My big focus when we moved into our apartment was securing a job. I'd been job hunting and sending in resumes and applications as early as a month before moving. But those of you who have been playing the job application game the past couple of years or so know exactly how bad the post-pandemic job market really is. I ended up finding and getting hired at a place within 6 weeks of moving into our apartment, which was really awesome. But how this came about has become quite a point of contention. I had originally considered the company that I know work for among the places I was applying, but I placed it lower on the list given they originally didn't list what they planned to pay, and I consider the commute to be too far to justify the gas. I was also worried it could be a waste of time, as too many businesses are claiming that they're desperately hiring nowadays, but then they never get back to you. About 3 weeks after moving in, my partner's parents stopped by. His mom was upset because she had stopped by the business before coming by and found it partially closed due to short staffing. She told me that I should go and apply. I told her I had considered and gave her the reasons why I had not yet applied, but decided to do so since it was clear they were actually in need of staff. Within 2 weeks of sending in my application, I was gotten back to, I was interviewed, and then I was hired. I ended up learning the pay and the benefits more than justified my commuting time, and I've been happily employed here ever since. But here's where the problems come in. My partner's mom constantly talks about how she got me that job. Anytime someone asked about my work in front of her and I respond positively, she reminds me that I should thank her, because without her, I wouldn't be so happy or paid so well. I mean, she never lets it go. She never fails to bring it up, and it's been driving me crazy lately. And while I've asked my partner to please speak to her about it, she still hasn't pulled back. I had a very long day yesterday, and I ended up snapping at her at the dinner table when she brought it up yet again. She said to me that I don't thank her enough for getting me that nice job. But I told her she did not get me that job. She did not work through my previous jobs, build my skills, or compile my resume for me. She didn't fill out my application, she didn't go to my interview, or go to my training. That was literally all on me. I told her I appreciate that she let me know they were understaffed and renewed my interest in applying, but the person who gets me my job and my money is me and me alone. Well, after I said that, she is now very unhappy and has called me disrespectful and says that I just have no respect for older people. My partner agrees with me that she's been pushing it too far, but wants me to try and make peace. But I honestly don't think that I should have to. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Am I justified for calling her out and saying exactly what I did? Because right now, I'm seriously not sure what to do. You are definitely not the jerk. Your partner's mom is absolutely obnoxious, and the fact that she's trying to take credit for you getting that job is so atrocious. Like, her frequency of reminding you in front of everybody has almost become like this weird, aggressive form of control where she's trying to put herself above you for some weird reason. Because you've got it right, she didn't do anything to get you that job. The only thing she did was point out that they're looking for people to work there, and that was literally it. So sure, she can take credit for tipping you off, but like, seriously, who would take credit for that? She's trying to equate that small act of like generosity as some kind of like groundbreaking moment where she can be like, ooh, you owe me so much. Now you have to respect me because I got one over on you. Like, that's really the attitude I'm getting from this lady, and it's really obnoxious. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. Your partner's mom is 100% at fault, and she didn't do a thing to help you out in the slightest. So I don't blame you for correcting her and putting a stop to this once and for all. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I'm thinking about calling off my wedding, all because of my fiance's comments about me bringing my son to live with me, because right now I'm completely devastated, and I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I lived in America up until I was 15 years old, and then my mom sent me to live with my dad in Guyana. I was originally supposed to live there until I was 18 years old, but I ended up coming back to New York when I was 24. During my time in Guyana, I had a son with my ex-girlfriend. I moved back to New York when he was 2 years old, and his mom and I decided it's best for him to stay with her in Guyana. It's better for him to know his culture and stay grounded. I have been back there many times to see him, and he's come to stay here with me as well. In the end, he was always supposed to come here to live with me. And this is where my fiancé comes in. We've been together for 2.5 years and she has met my son. I've always been very vocal about the fact that he's going to come and live with me, and this year is the year where he will permanently be moving here. He's going to come in the summer and then start his first year of middle school. Well, I started to notice her not being on board with the whole idea last year, which is right when I was looking for houses. I was thinking about moving somewhere nearby in New Jersey due to a better school system, but my fiancé disagreed. There have been other pretty minimal things here and there since, but she's never outright said that he shouldn't come here, but has said things that heavily implied it. However, each time I ask her to further explain, it would end with the fact that she wants him here. Well, our wedding is literally 3 Saturdays from now, and yesterday she said explicitly that she does not want him to move in with us. We started arguing about something else that was pretty minimal, but it escalated to a bigger discussion about our future, and that's when she said that she prefers if he remains with his mom. Her main reasoning was that she didn't want to fill in as a stepmom with no other mom present. She would feel so odd with having him around pretty much early on in our marriage, and she feels like we should wait until he's older, or she wants him to not come at all and just come for vacations. From day one, I have said that my son is going to live with me, even going as far as giving her a time frame. I always said that I want him here right before he starts middle school. I've said this for 2.5 years. If she felt this way the whole time, then why not say something earlier? Why wait until only weeks before our wedding? I'm genuinely thinking about calling it off, and I need advice on my options here, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. This is honestly so unfair to you, it really does suck. So the entire time she's known you, she has had these thoughts and these doubts in the back of her mind, but she hasn't said anything about it. Like, you literally could not have been more clear that this is something you want to happen. And now what, 3 Saturdays from your wedding, she's now being like, well, wait a second, let's not have your son move here. It's like, what are you talking about? It is way too late for that. If she really had an issue with this, she should have brought this up, I don't know, years ago, or maybe moved on to somebody else that could share a goal that she agrees with. But to silently go along with this, only to then drop this on someone who clearly wants this, is honestly insane to me. And that is seriously a massive red flag. I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be looking at changing things around big time, because this is a huge betrayal of trust. You thought you had somebody who was on board with your plans, or at least someone who shared the same goals as you in some kind of way, but boy, does it really seem like she lied to you just to get this far. So hopefully this all works out for you and you're able to find some kind of solution, because legitimately what you're describing right now sounds absolutely awful. I caught my friend kissing my husband's neck while I was asleep, and now that I've confronted my husband about this, he's claiming that nothing bad happened and that I'm blowing things way out of proportion. And at this point, I seriously now don't know what to do. Okay, so my husband and I have been married for 2 years and together for 3. This just happened about 5 hours ago, and I'm not sure how to feel or what to believe. For context, my friend comes over to drink and hang out every once in a while, and when she does, we let her sleep in the guest room so she doesn't drive home drunk. Last night, we all decided to watch a movie in bed. I fell asleep after maybe an hour, and at 4 a.m., I feel them both move off of the bed, so it woke me up. My husband said he went to go get water, and my friend said that she had to use the bathroom. After they got back onto the bed, I was awake, but my eyes were closed. I noticed the movie got louder, and then I heard a kissing noise. I turned over slowly, and I saw my friend caressing my husband from behind and giving him kisses on his neck while he watched the movie. Once she realized that I saw her, she froze, quickly moved her hands, and we stared at each other for a good 30 seconds. Eventually, I asked her what was going on, and she swore it was nothing and that nothing happened. My husband initially said the same, but after about an hour and a half of asking for the truth, he told me that he didn't know the kisses were for him and that he froze and didn't know what to do. When I asked him why it took him so long to tell me the truth, he said it was because he was afraid of how my friend would react. I don't know if I should believe him or not. She kissed him twice that I know of, and he has a history of lying to me. My friend was quiet the whole time I was trying to get the truth out of my husband, and eventually I told her to leave my house. She left, and my husband got upset at me for being mad at him for what happened. Personally, I think he shouldn't have let it get to that point in the first place. He said that she caught him by surprise, but eventually confessed that she first rubbed him on his back and told him it's okay, and then after that, she sat directly behind him, hugged him from behind, and started to kiss his neck multiple times. He said that she was probably just comforting him because she noticed that he was upset because him and I have been having some issues lately. But I feel like they both have fault. She was insanely wrong for doing that, and he was wrong for letting her do that. He says that I'm messed up for getting mad at him and not her, which is not true. I'm honestly mad at the both of them. I'm not sure how to go about this. Part of me wants to call it quits, but the other half of me feels bad for not believing him. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Okay, I think you need to say the quiet part out loud in my opinion, because it really seems like your husband is cheating on you. I don't believe for a second that this is something that just happened suddenly in your bed. Like, I'm pretty sure this has been going on for a while, and he's definitely been a willing participant in all of this. Like, I know for a fact that if a woman started kissing up on me, and I had a girlfriend who I loved and appreciated, I would recoil from her immediately and be like, wait a second, what are you doing? Get away from me. I would make a massive fuss and say, you've gotta go. This is not okay, and you've crossed a serious boundary. But the husband in this story didn't do anything like that. He didn't even push away from her when she started rubbing up against him. Like, he just sat there and allowed it to happen. So it kind of makes me believe that he's used to this kind of treatment from this friend specifically. And that's honestly awful. It makes me wonder what they do together when you fall asleep inside of that guest room. This all seems super sketchy and in my opinion, a massive red flag you cannot ignore. I mean, he even tried to say, oh, I didn't stop her because I was afraid of how she would react. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. Your wife is literally sleeping right next to you on your bed. So hopefully this all works out for you, because this honestly sounds awful and you do not deserve this in the slightest. My mom feels entitled to my clothing all the time, constantly calling me selfish if I don't give her all of my clothing whenever she wants it, while also saying that I'm gonna be a terrible roommate and friends to anybody in the future. And I'm honestly so done with the way she treats me that I'm already planning on cutting her out of my life when I get old enough. And I honestly can't wait for that day to come sooner than later. Here's what happened. I'm a 17-year-old female, and my mom, who lives in Oregon, had a falling out this December, and recently she came to visit me and my dad in Texas. I was very worried about this because of her and I having the fight, but she seemed to regret what she did and was trying to be careful around me for the first day that she visited, which I really did appreciate. The second day, she asked to borrow some leggings or shorts from me to go play tennis, and I initially said no, as I buy all my clothes myself, and I'm pretty protective over my leggings in particular, which are pretty expensive, and I don't like getting dirty or sweaty. However, she begged me, so I gave her a pair of shorts to use. She said they were too short and she needed leggings because of the cold outside. So I found a pair that I would maybe be okay with her using, as long as she took care of them. She tried them on and told me that they were too short as well, and that she needed leggings that go all the way down to her ankle instead of the mid-calf. I argued with her and said that I wasn't willing to let her borrow the ones I own like that, and then she started yelling at me, and my dad did as well to back her up, saying that I'm selfish and I need to hand them over. Well, I told her no, and that I had given her plenty of options, and that she should just choose from those, and that it wasn't my fault that she hadn't packed any with her. She and my dad then said that I should have let her look through my closet and pick out whatever she wanted, and that everyone, such as my future roommates and friends, are going to hate me because I was too selfish. I just walked away to my room to cool off, and there I found a pair of fleece-lined leggings, which she initially accepted, but she heard the tone of my voice, which wasn't sunshine and rainbows, due to her being so rude to me right before. She said that I was being too rude to her, and that she didn't need the leggings anyways, because she could just wear the pair that she had worn on the plane the day before. I was so incredibly insulted by this, because if she had a pair, then why ask me for one? We were both pretty upset, and she calmed down a little bit and said she wanted to talk to me about how selfish I was being. I told her it was not the right time, as I had to get to work, and when I went to go, she then said an awful swear word to me, and I honestly couldn't believe it. She said this to her own daughter, who she was trying to make it up to. My dad refused to drive me to work, so I went to bike over. As I was leaving, my mom decided to put in one last jab and told me to take off the shirt I was wearing, which she had given me because it didn't suit her. She grabbed a pair of scissors and said she was going to cut it up, to which I laughed and took off the shirt. My dad realized how crazy she was acting and tried to calm her down. She asked why I was laughing, and I said to her, "And you think that you've changed? That is honestly a joke." Anyways, I changed my shirt and was halfway out the door when she yelled at me some more. I eventually then left for work and got out of there. But unfortunately, this is not even the worst of my mom. But once I'm old enough, I absolutely have the plan to cut her out of my life. Yeah, your mom sounds absolutely unhinged. Like, her behavior was completely unhinged. She quite literally tried to steal clothing from you, all under the guise of like, oh, but I need a pair of leggings. But it's like she already brought leggings with her. Why is she trying to take yours and use yours instead instead of her own. Like, that really is weird to me, and I would be just as upset as the original poster in this situation. Like, she's literally just doing this, it seems like, to get a rise out of you. And that is so annoying to deal with. So truly, I hope everything works out for you in the end. I really hope you don't have to deal with your mom in this capacity very soon, because the way she's acting and treating you is so self-centered. And in my opinion, your mom and your dad absolutely suck. My husband tries to warn our neighbors about their landscaping, but gets told to mind his own business several times. So my husband decides to maliciously comply, allowing them to practically ruin their yard and get in trouble with the city and the HOA. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of background, my husband is pretty handy. Prior to COVID, he had flipped several houses as a fun side gig. It's what he really loves to do, and he became very familiar with a ton of city codes. During COVID, it seems everyone was suddenly buying houses to flip out of boredom, and prices skyrocketed, so he put that on hold. So then he started doing household repairs and upgrades, building fences and stuff like that all around the neighborhood as well. To get a better understanding of the neighborhood HOA bylaws and whatnot, he joined the HOA Architectural Committee, though he learned all there was to know about what was allowed and what was not, how the processes worked, and how to work around certain things. So, long story short, my husband was very knowledgeable in what to do and not do, and various processes with the neighborhood and the city. Our next door neighbor decided they were going to start landscaping their backyard, and they, I guess, planned to make theirs as similar to our backyard as possible. The problem was that despite being next door neighbors, our land was quite different. For one thing, behind our house was a bunch of brush and pine trees, maybe 3 to 4 feet from the lake that's at the back of the house. We didn't have to do a whole lot to clear the area, but the brush on their property was about 1/3 of their yard, and I'd say it was about 10 feet from the water, give or take. Also, the way the houses on our street are, the land naturally made like a valley, where the house to our right is at the top, and we're in the middle, and the next two houses are at the bottom before it quickly rises again. The first thing the neighbors did was cut down all the trees in their backyard, and they were not small trees either, but rather 4-story tall trees or more. My husband and neighbor were talking about the backyard plans when my husband casually mentioned that he was surprised the city gave him permission to cut down so many trees. For reference, in our city, you had to have an arborist give permission to cut down any trees that were over a certain height. The neighbor first said it wasn't the city's business what he did with his backyard. Then he told my husband to mind his own business, which is like, okay, fair enough. Then they started putting up the retaining wall to bring it up to level with our property, which would have been about 7 to 8 feet tall. Basically, they were just stacking a bunch of cinder blocks. So my husband uneasily asked if their landscapers had ever done a retaining wall like that, and if the city approved it. The city says that if a retaining wall is over 5 feet tall, you need a structural engineer to come out. Again, the neighbor said it wasn't any of the city's business what he did to his yard, while also reminding my husband to mind his own business. Well, while they're filling up the backyard to bring their levels to ours, the landscapers are dumping all the dirt, gravel, and sand into the street, and they were blocking a little over half of the road. Several of the neighbors who had trucks would just hop the curb, but other neighbors with smaller cars were mad. Before my neighbor could ask if they could put the dirt and stuff in their driveway instead of the road like everybody else, my neighbor went off on my husband and told him to get lost in not so nice of words. So we thought, okay then. My husband let them continue working and didn't say a word as they started constructing a 10-foot tall fence, which was against HOA regulations, as fences could not be taller than 6 feet. Between them starting construction 6 days before 7 a.m. and them blocking the road, I guess someone had finally had enough. The next thing I know, city officials were out there putting a giant sign in the yard saying all construction was to be halted until further notice. Now, let me tell you something. It was not us who did this, but my husband found out through the architectural committee that someone had complained about the noise and the road blockage to the HOA, who came out to investigate, saw everything that they had done, and then reported them to the city. They got a hefty fine for every tree stump the city official found. The structural engineer said their retaining wall was not sound and it had to be redone, and it had to have regular inspection during its build. The HOA also told them that not only did they have to take down the 10-foot tall fence, but as they did not get prior approval, and because it was not an appropriate design, the HOA was also going to hit them with a hefty fine. Initially, the neighbor came to us for tattling, but we told them it wasn't us, as nothing they did affected us in any kind of way. For reference, our kids kids are early risers, so even starting before 7 o'clock didn't bother us. My husband then said that he tried to warn them that this would happen, but the neighbor told him to get lost and mind his business, so he did. Landscaping had started on Black Friday and was shut down for 3 weeks, while I guess they got things sorted out with the city and the HOA. And as of now, their backyard is still not finished. Wow, this is really funny to me, because if the neighbors had just listened to the husband of this story, then they literally could have avoided all of this trouble. But instead, they decided to be hostile and really weird to this guy, and that's just really not fair. Like, this guy really was genuinely trying to help out. He was trying to step up to the plate and say, hey, just so you know, I know a lot about all of this and you might be doing it wrong. And I know if I was doing construction on my backyard and my neighbor's like, hey, wait a second, the city might have a problem with this, I would stop what I was doing like immediately and be like, oh, okay, let me go figure that out real quick. And I can imagine their fines are probably very hefty from the HOA and the city. Like, both of those organizations probably do not play around, especially the HOA. So good for you and your husband for maliciously complying and basically stepping back and letting these people ruin their lives, because they absolutely deserve it after the way they talk to you and your husband. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.